Hi folks, I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. I'm Ken Calvert alongside my dear friend and partner in crime, Father Joe Grimaldi. The Father Joe podcast is proudly supported by Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. The Spring Savings Sales event is going on now, but only until May 31st. Star Lincoln has added incredible one-time only dealer incentives that most likely will never be repeated. Check out these additional incentive enhancements available to all current Lincoln and Ford owners. You'll get $2,000 additional savings on the 2019 MKZ. You'll get $1,500 on the 2019 MKC. $500 cash back on the 2019 Nautilus, the hottest SUV on the road. And coming in any day, it's the all-new Lincoln Aviator, the star of the North American International Auto Show. In a hurry? Shop online at starlincoln.com or call us 248-354-4900. Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln, 12 Mile and Telegraph in Southfield, home of the Star Treatment. Okay, are you ready for a tough one? Because I'm uncomfortable with the subject.
So am I.
Well, you've brought it up a number of times. Well, I shouldn't say a number of times, but enough that I just sort of let you talk a little bit and then I move on. But today we are devoting the entire podcast to pornography. Did you know that divorce rates double once people start getting involved with watching pornography? Were you aware of that?
Yes, I am.
That stat. You've mentioned it a few times, like I said, in the past. What is it about pornography? We can't avoid it, especially now with social media. Saw something today on a television program. I don't know which one it was. I want to say Good Morning America or one of those. And Kirk Cameron, an actor, was talking about introducing cell phones, social media, to his children. And he claims that's where it all starts. Social media. What say you, my friend?
I certainly want to agree with that because it's so easy to them. It's something new. It's something interesting. They're not used to seeing or hearing about that kind of thing, and so they could easily become addicted to it. I use addicted because I think it's a great addiction that we're speaking about. I mean, we have covered areas as much as we could, alcoholism and so on and so forth as being addictive type drugs, and well, I think pornography is also very addictive. Now, it's been around for a long time. However, it's become more and more in your face because of all of the internet that's available to everyone. And I think it's a problem not only in the United States, but I think it's a problem throughout the whole world because as internet becomes accessible to everybody, it's easy to get onto these sites that are pornographic, and it's easy to become addicted to them. I want to say this, and I think you brought that up about the divorce rate. I think it is related to the divorce rate because what happens is either the husband or the wife becomes so entranced by the visions of the pornography, the videos that they see, you could see where they could become addicted to those things, so much so that the husband or the wife is no longer satisfying the partner sexually, not completely anyway. And so what happens is it draws them farther and farther apart because one or the other has to be with the internet. To that, it's kind of interesting. They fail to see that what they're seeing on the internet is not reality. It's, reality is the sex that they have between themselves as husband and wife, but not what they see on the internet. That's exaggerated. It's meant to attract people to it.
Sure.
And it does a beautiful job. I mean, much easier than any other.
It is a perfect world scenario a lot of times. Yes.
But it's not reality. Yeah. And I think what happens is you could get lost in that fantasy world thinking that this is the ideal. And then, of course, when it comes time to enjoy the gift of sex between a husband and wife, it's not adequate. It just isn't adequate. And so you can see where let's separate for a while, let's divorce. So it happens. It happens.
I find that fascinating. In a strange way, you would almost see where somebody would possibly invite the pornographic situation into the bedroom to assist and help along in the process of the sexual relationship with your partner.
Yeah, but maybe one or the other is not interested in that kind of thing, and this is where the difficulties are. For example,
I'm sort of suggesting this because I know that it happens. That's why I was kind of going around the back to, more or less make my point.
Right, but by the same token, is it something that's acceptable to both partners? And if it is, maybe it helps. I don't know. I mean, what goes on between a husband and wife?
You wouldn't endorse that, though, would you?
No, I would not. No. There's nothing more beautiful than the purity of the sexual commitment to each other as a married couple. I think that's the essence of it. It's kind of an interesting thing because people don't like to use the word sex along the side the word holiness, but that's what it's about when you look at it between a husband and wife. They have a right to enjoy it. They have a right to enjoy each other because they made that commitment to each other, and it's a covenant that they've made between the two, so that whatever they feel, whatever they intend is to be open completely to the partners, so that and to each other. They're giving each other to each other. In the old days, we used to call marriage a contract. Well, you buy a car with a contract, you buy a house with a contract, but not in marriage. In marriage, it's a covenant, and a covenant means that you give yourself completely to the other person.
Two things real quickly. You mentioned addiction. You're going to have to walk me through that because I don't understand how. I understand alcohol. I certainly understand opioids, addictive chemicals associated with a mental health issue, perhaps. I don't quite get the addiction to pornography. I suspect it's a very real problem. I haven't done enough research. So you're convinced it's possible for pornography to be an addiction?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, only because it's so enticing that when you are away from the screen, you miss it, and you have to get back to it. There are so many people that try to break away from that habit, and it's very difficult for them to really break away because of the addiction. So that, for example, when people are enjoying the common family activities anytime during the day, well, that gets in the way because the individual wants to go and see the video on pornography.
Wow.
Then you find, too, people at work. People at work very often slide into sites that are, because nowadays everybody has a computer in front of them when they're working. And so the one thing they do is they slip into the pornography sites, voluntarily or involuntarily. Sometimes you're just caught into it.
Yeah, sometimes, if you Google the wrong word, all of a sudden something comes up. Or you also have people trying to go malware on you, and you have to be careful. You really, really... Adults, of course, you can realize very quickly that, this isn't where I want it.
The right thing.
Yeah, but your kids could easily do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a third grader could be in a classroom and go, "Oh, look, sister, look what I just found."
Yeah.
No. Let's get that out of here right now. Follow up to the addiction part of pornography. Are there facilities that people actually... There must be some place that somebody can go to break that habit, that addiction to pornography.
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar with any places?
Not a specific address, no, but by the same token, I know there are places just like there are for AA.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Or Alcoholics Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous.
Yeah.
There are places where you can go.
I thought maybe as a parish priest you might have some sort of knowledge because I'm sure... again, I don't know why I feel like I'm kind of walking on eggshells here. Maybe it's just the topic, but I want to go through the topic and be true to the topic. but I'm sure at some time in your vocation as a priest, you've run across one or two people who have come to you saying, Father, I have this problem, I'm addicted to, or I'm spending way too much time on a pornographic site.
A lot. Okay.
No kidding.
And so it's something that you have to speak with the individual as much as you can. Now, one of the things, as a confessor, what we can do is say, listen, if you really want to discuss this further, please call me, or call a priest that you know that where we can discuss it further for help. But usually it's a very difficult topic to discuss, and very often they don't want the help that they can get. They would rather keep trying to stay away from it. And one of the recommendations, inevitably would be, well, okay, when you are tempted to go to the internet, make sure that you have something already set, like a walk or something like this, that you've already have planned.
Boy, that's hard to do when you're right in front of your computer doing your email, doing business reports, doing research or whatever it is. It's so easy to just slide over that Google bar.
Yeah, and as they say, despite the fact we're confessors, doesn't mean that we're experts ourselves.
Right.
And of course that happens among religious as well. So it's not just the lay people that we're talking about, it's everyone.
You know what? I would think, and that's another one of those areas that's difficult for me to go into, but I will, because I have to be true and honest to the podcast and the topic. But I would bet a lot of priests and brothers, given the loneliness, must occasionally say,
fall into that.
What the heck, why not? And then get full into it.
Yeah.
What about parishioners that may mitigate it by saying, oh, come on, my wife is frozen up on me?
I think that's where we need
be satisfied.
As expert psychologists. Very often it's not that the wife or the husband is frozen, but in a different way they have sicknesses and they've become incapable to interact sexually, and so the partner then is stuck either by being alone or very often falling into the habit of pornography.
That's what I mean.
So it happens. There's no question. People either try to stay away from it, or they just say, forget it, I'm just going to do it, and that's it. So it depends on the individual. Not everybody sees it as a sin, but here we're talking for more than just a sin. We're
going there next, because I have something I want to share with you.
Yeah, okay.
All right, well, this is from CatholicsComeHome.org.
Yeah.
The question was, what's wrong? What's wrong with looking at pornography? It's not like you're getting a girl pregnant or spreading STDs. And the answer is, the problem with using porn is that it emasculates men, degrades women, destroys marriages, and offends the Lord. But nowhere does it say it's a sin.
Well, people don't like to use that word anymore, but it's a form of infidelity. If you choose a screen over your own wife or husband, there's something wrong, because you're denying your wife or your husband the sexual rights that they have.
Getting back to those that wear the collar.
I'm not an expert, by the way.
I know, and nor am I. I'm hardly an expert. We've done nearly 150 podcasts.
Okay.
And I like to stay fresh.
Sure.
I like to go into places now that we haven't gone before, and we've never spent a full podcast on this.
Right.
And I think it's because it's kind of one of those, even at my age, your age, whatever, it's one of those uncomfortable topics. I don't care how you slice it. It's uncomfortable. But when you get back to those that wear the collar or the nun are religious, it seems to compound the problem for some reason. Does a priest go to another priest and say, listen, I think I've got a problem?
Of course.
Okay.
And that does happen.
It does happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But first of all, I think it's the confession route. And once they're not satisfied with that, because you can't, when people come to confession, it's very difficult to go into a full counseling session.
Exactly.
So one of the things you have to recommend is that they see someone who can help them in that area. And that would be part of the penance, what we used to call the penance, and we still call it the penance, that they have to do as part of the confession rite. However, not everybody goes to confession. As a matter of fact, that's the battle cry these days. that the churches are empty on Saturday.
Yeah.
Usually, not all. But some churches, nobody goes to confession anymore. And I'm exaggerating to an extent, but the same token, I think you'll notice that there's no long lines for confession anymore. And I've said this before, one of the things that used to happen in the past, people will line up on Saturday afternoon all the way around the church so that they could get to confession, to get to Mass on Sunday and so on. And once they were finished, they felt that they were so relieved from the burdens on their shoulders that they felt like new people.
Yeah, you felt like you could fly.
And now they have to go to psychologists where they pay $150 a half hour and get the same answer, basically. I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, but the confessionals are empty. You look around, it's not what it used to be. Confessions have taken a back seat in many ways. The sacrament of reconciliation, which is really a reconciliation with God and your neighbor, which is a beautiful thing, is now kind of a lot of people just don't go.
I would think that the demographics on that are rather high. Those people that do still attend with frequency would be 55 plus.
That's not true.
No?
No. Very often it's the people who are younger. Now, the older people, when you speak about the older folks, they feel that they just have to just keep going and so on. Which brings me to another point about confession. I think we have a puritanical attitude about sex. When I say we, I think the United States. Americans. We seem to think that is the only sin there is to confess.
That's a good point.
You have people that will come in and say, Father, bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I've committed adultery twice. Now, in their minds, the adultery is that they had sex outside of marriage. That's true. But they forget that the bigger sin is the infidelity, the promise they made at marriage. That's the real sin, that they have broken that fidelity to their wives or their husbands. And it's kind of interesting that people don't think of it that way when they say, bless me, Father, for I've sinned, I've committed adultery. Well, they're thinking, well, it's the sex. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of interesting. We forget about how we stamp on other people so we could get ahead. We forget about trying to make money in an illegal way, and we forget about all that. That means nothing, you know.
Right.
We forget about tearing down your neighbor. We forget about, all those things.
Yeah,
but when it comes to...
There are nine other commandments that I can think of.
But that's not one of the... That's not the way it goes usually.
Oh, that's interesting that I never thought of that. I have just one final question for you on pornography and the confession. If somebody comes in and confesses, and I guess this goes for confession period.
Sure.
If somebody says something about, I have this fascination with, and I'm constantly going to a pornographic site on a regular basis, and it seems to be picking up, and I'm fearing that I might have an addiction, but I know it offends the Lord, therefore it must be sinful, a sinful practice that I'm involved in. So I guess when I walk out, I'm forgiven. And you say yes, but then when do you say, hey, maybe you and I should talk further about this, without offending someone and maybe overstating what the person said to you?
Well, I think one of the things you want to do is explain to the individual that, yes, it's offending the Lord. However, in order to stop, in order to hold back a little bit on that, it's important that you get help. It's important that you see someone who can counsel you in the right ways of avoiding that, or at least helping you with that. Because the addiction is something that you don't want to offend the Lord. Okay, that's not your intention. But the thing is this, that since you're addicted, and addiction is more of a psychological thing than it is a religious thing, you need to heal the addiction in order to make it right with the Lord.
All right, simple question for you. What if it's not an addiction? You just find yourself occasionally enjoying going to a pornographic site.
I don't think you can do that without becoming addicted to it. At least that's my opinion.
Okay. All right. I'm going to leave that there.
Because you get hooked easily.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I see what you're saying. I'm seeing what you're saying. Well, I'm looking right at you. That's why. Well, thank you for enlightening me, oh great one. I am not worthy. Coming up on Sunday's podcast, we're going to talk about something that's really, it's spiraling. It's not a good set of numbers that we're seeing. More and more people are agnostic or claiming to be atheists, and I want you to take me to where we can do something about that. Okay?
I'm going to try.
Well, you always do it. You don't just try. You do a heck of a good job. You do a great job.
Well, thank you. You too.
All right, closing in on number 150. Don't forget to tell your friends to listen to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. We certainly enjoy the support, and we thank you for joining us on the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. I'm Ken Calvin along with Father Joe.
See you soon. Thank you. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.